We are tackling a supply chain emergency that's kind of hidden in plain sight. The crisis of the vanishing workforce, our bees. Welcome to the deep dive.
It really is. It's an ecological crisis and an economic one, all rolled into one.
Exactly. And our mission today is, well, to dive into the research, the sources that reveal this perfect storm that's decimating bee populations right now, and what that really means for your food security. Because we're not talking small numbers here. We're looking at potentially 60, maybe even 70% losses in U.S. colonies. That's what some projections for 2025 are showing based on the agricultural science data we've reviewed. And, before we really get into the weeds here, remember, you can always visit Mind Expansion Daily for more deep dives like this one. Seriously, check it out. And hey, while you're there, please like and subscribe. It really helps us grow this community. Also, if you like what we're doing, if you find this valuable, there's a link in the description where you can buy us a coffee. We definitely appreciate the support. Oh, and one more thing. Leave us a comment. Tell us, do you agree or disagree with where we land on this bee crisis? And definitely let us know where you're tuning in from. We're trying to reach people all over the globe.
Okay, so let's unpack this because it really does need urgent attention. What's crucial for you to grasp is just the sheer scale of what's at stake here. Bees are, while they're foundational, they underpin something like 75% of the world's flowering plants. And they pollinate over a third of the global food crops that actually feed us. So when we talk about this perfect storm, it's multifaceted. We're dealing with major habitat loss, these systemic pesticides, climate change messing things up, and yeah, these deadly pathogens like mites. It's a lot.
And the money involved is just massive. Bees aren't just, nice to have around. The sources actually call them ecosystem engineers. Globally, their work is valued, get this, at around $577 billion every year. That's the IPBES estimate. And just here in the U.S., it's over $15 billion in agriculture year in, year out.
That's a huge number, and you really see that dependency up close in certain sectors. Like, think about California's almond orchards. They produce, 80% of the world's supply? Blueberry fields, too, vast areas of fruit crops. They absolutely need commercial pollination to even get close to their expected yields.
What I find fascinating and honestly a bit scary is the direct math. Like, what happens to our grocery shelves if they vanish? It's not just about less honey. It's about volume, right? And prices going up.
Oh, absolutely. Research shows crops would suffer immediately. Apple yields, for example, could drop by 30%. Even coffee, maybe 20% less yield, instantly.
Wow. 30% for apples.
Yeah. And that's why there's this crisis feeling right now. There was a 2025 report, I think the New York Times, warning that this combo of parasites, pesticides, and climate extremes could genuinely wipe out 70% of colonies. We're seeing this evolution of colony collapse disorder, CCD, which first hit the radar back around 2006. Remember that? When adult bees just started disappearing, leaving the queen and young behind.
And we tend to focus on the commercial honeybee, the ones trucked around, but we can't forget the native guys, right?
Definitely not. There are something like 4,000 species of native bees just in the U.S., and studies are suggesting maybe 20% of them are already facing extinction risk.
Yeah.
Mostly, habitat loss.
That's a huge threat to overall biodiversity, isn't it? Yeah. And the resilience of the food supply long term. Because native bees pick up the slack sometimes.
They often pollinate things honeybees miss, so losing them is a double whammy.
Okay, let's pivot to what the sources point to again and again as a major killer.
Yeah.
The chemical side of things, we have to talk about neonicotinoids.
Neonics. Yeah, they're sort of the definition of a silent killer because of how they're used.
Explain that. Why are they so much more insidious than just spraying pesticides?
Well, neonicotinoids are systemic, so instead of just spraying the grown plant, the seeds get coated with this stuff. Then as the plant grows, that chemical is basically inside its tissues. It's in the pollen, it's in the nectar that the bees eat.
So the bees can't avoid it.
Pretty much unavoidable for a foraging bee, yeah.
And what does it actually do to the bee? The damage mechanism sounds complex.
It goes after their central nervous system. These chemicals mess up their navigation pretty badly, and they weaken their immune systems, too. There was a 2025 study in Science that showed exposed bees really struggle to find their way back to the hive. It's like giving them, brain fog or something. It cut their foraging efficiency by up to 50%. They just get lost.
50%. And when you connect that impairment to the hard numbers, like Washington State University linking neonics to maybe 40% of U.S. bee deaths, which feeds right back into that projected 60-70% total loss for 2025. I mean, it feels like we're actively poisoning the workforce that supports $15 billion of our own agriculture.
And there's a synergy effect, too, which makes it even worse. If you connect the chemicals to the pathogens already out there, a 2025 review confirmed that neonics make bees more vulnerable to those awful varroa mites, the ones that are practically everywhere. So the combination means maybe 30% more colonies die than if it was just the mites alone.
Wow, so the chemicals basically open the door for the diseases. A vicious cycle.
Ex-
You mentioned policy earlier. If this is so clear, economically and ecologically, why is the U.S. lagging on regulating these things?
That's a really important question, especially when you look overseas. The sources point out that the EU banned these pesticides, right? And it seems to have helped. Their bee population stabilized by about 10%. That's measurable.
10% is something.
It is. Meanwhile, here in the US, EPA reviews seem to just stall, despite the data piling up. It looks like a real disconnect where maybe short-term farming practices are winning out over long-term security for pollinators.
Which leads to that frustration you see online, right? Like those trends saying pesticides killing bees faster than we thought.
Yeah, people are noticing.
Okay, moving beyond the chemicals, let's talk about the physical environment. The second big cause, habitat loss.
Right. And this is huge, often underestimated. Habitat is basically nutrition for bees. Urban sprawl, plus the massive fields of single crops, these monocultures, they're literally eating up the diverse landscapes bees need to survive.
We're turning meadows into, well, food deserts for bees.
It's exactly sterile environments.
And the research shows this clearly. Wiley had a study in 2025 linking a 50% drop in floral resources, different types of flowers, directly to bee declines. When you replace wildflowers with just lawns or one type of crop, the bees get malnourished, they get sick easier. They need varied pollen like we need varied food.
And that poor nutrition gets amplified by the stress of commercial farming itself.
Yeah.
Let's go back to those California almond farms. They need something like 90% of the entire U.S. commercial bee population just for that one season.
90%, which means trucking them all there. Explain the stress of that journey. It sounds awful.
Oh, it is. Imagine millions of these tiny, fragile insects loaded onto trucks driven thousands of miles, often bouncing around, temperature changes. It messes with their internal clocks. They arrive stressed out. And then they're put straight to work on just one food source almond blossoms for weeks. No variety.
Just almonds.
Just almonds. That lack of dietary diversity plus the travel stress, it's a massive physical hit. It compromises their immune systems before they even encounter any pesticides or diseases out there.
So it's a double whammy. Their natural homes disappear, and then the commercial ones are pushed way too hard. OSU had a report blaming urbanization alone for a 20% drop in wild bees, just because the wildflowers vanish under concrete and grass.
Which flows right into the third major factor, climate change. This kind of acts like an accelerant for all the other problems.
Okay, so how does a warming climate specifically mess with that delicate timing, the bee and the flower relationship?
Well, it creates what scientists call a phenological mismatch. Basically, timing goes out of sync. Warmer temperatures make flowers bloom earlier than they used to. But many native bees, they emerge based on cues like day length, not just temperature.
Oh, okay.
So a PNAS study in 2025 highlighted that maybe 1/5 of native bees are at risk just from this. They emerge expecting food, but the flowers aren't ready, or they bloom too late after the main bloom is over.
So they basically starve because the timing is off,
Effectively, yeah. The pantry's empty when they show up. It's a fundamental disconnect.
caused by these unpredictable temperatures.
Exactly. And warmer winters. They mess up bee dormancy, make them emerge too early when they're vulnerable. That NY2 report mentioned extreme weather, sudden freezes, crazy heat waves as a major factor in those projected 70% colony threats.
It puts it all in perspective.
And when you look at the big picture scale, the UN suggests extinction rates are already running like 100 to 1,000 times higher than the normal background rate. Bees are caught right in that acceleration.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. Pesticides, lost homes, climate chaos.
Yeah.
What does this actually mean for your grocery list right now?
It means that $577 billion worth of global crops we rely on are now at risk. This isn't just a beekeeper problem, it's a fundamental economic issue for every single consumer.
And the financial threat feels very real, very immediate. If these huge yearly losses continue, some models suggest food prices could jump maybe 10 to 15% pretty quickly, especially for things like fruits, nuts, coffee, things heavily reliant on pollinators. Projections for 2025 suggest maybe 35% of the specific crop species we eat are now at high risk because of these declines.
Yeah, it's serious. But look, the good news is solutions do exist. This isn't hopeless. There is a path forward. It needs a mix of policy changes and shifts in how we do agriculture, focusing really hard on cutting back chemical dependence.
Can you give an example? You mentioned integrated pest management, IPM. What does it actually look like on the ground?
Right, IPM. It's not just some buzzword. It's basically a smarter farming strategy. It means using deep knowledge about the pests and their environment to use pesticides only as a last resort. You try other things first, like bringing in natural predators for the pests, rotating crops, planting varieties that resist pests naturally.
So chemicals are the backup plan, not the first option.
Exactly. And it works. This strategy is proven to cut overall pesticide use by up to 30%.
30% is significant. And it's not just farms, right? Cities can play a part.
Oh, definitely. Even simple things in urban areas help. Creating pollinator pathways with the right plants, planting diverse wildflowers along roadsides, rooftop gardens. These can boost local urban bee populations by maybe 15%. Every bit helps.
So the core strategy seems clear. Less pesticides, actively restore diverse habitats, and tackle climate impacts through smarter land management.
It needs everyone chipping in, individuals, towns, policymakers. Collective effort is the only way.
Absolutely. The bottom line is the bees' decline is a massive warning sign. It's not just an environmental issue. It's a direct hit to our supply chain, threatening the food on our plates every single day. We have the data. We know what needs doing.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Something connecting policy and farming. If we know a huge stressor is hauling bees across the country for these giant monocultures like the almonds in California, well, how could we maybe restructure things like crop insurance or even use diversification mandates? Could that reduce the intense pressure on commercial beekeepers and help out native wild bees at the same time?
Tackling the root cause of that systemic weakness.
Exactly. It's about redesigning the system, not just patching the symptoms.
That is a critical idea to think about. Keep learning, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.